Hi, Peter Charles here, Folk to Fly Fishing. And today we're going to tie a fly that I tied up a long time ago. The fly on the vise is over 30 years old. It was originally a batch that I did based on a simple problem. In those days, when you fish for steelhead in the Great Lakes, use 10-foot stem weight, floating line, an indicator, split shot, and either a nymph or an egg fly. And I find fishing that way as boring as watching paint dry. I can't stand that type of fishing. So I wanted to swing flies or strip flies, strip streamers for steelhead. And most of the time I stripped streamers. But there was no getting around the fact that egg fly type flies worked. They caught lots of fish. So I thought, wow, why don't I do a fly that I can swing but kind of looks like an egg? Which is this beastie right here. Now, I don't have a name for it. Never did come up with a name for it. So I'm inviting people to supply a name. I used to think of it as my mistake, or, somebody might call it the bimbo. I don't know. That's kind of politically incorrect, but there are a lot of things we can do with the thing. But here's the story how it went. I was so embarrassed with this fly when I tied this batch of flies, and now I can't use them. It's embarrassing to put these things on the end of the line. I was kind of more in the traditional patterns. And so I'm, out there with my son fishing the Credit River, and he's always losing flies and mooching them off of me, right? He can tie his own. He's got his own kit, but he's mooching my flies. So I gave him one of these. It's like, okay, fine. You want to mooch my flies? Here you go. Within 2 or 3 casts, he's hooked up on the steelhead. I'm going, oh, okay. Maybe I've got something going here that I don't expect. And it's better than I think. So let's get going at tying the NoName fly, and I invite you guys to come up with a name for it. Okay, let's start off by looking at the materials. I'm using a Daiichi 2055 size 5, and it's gold, it's garish, it's bright. That's what it's supposed to be. For thread, I'm using this Uni 60 Fire Orange. This is fluorescent, so it will glow, and we want that. The tag on the rib is Uni Mylar size 14 gold silver, and this is a gold hook, so we're going to use the silver side, create some contrast. The tail and the hackle is going to be this fluorescent orange, and I would recommend using fluorescent materials as much as you possibly can in this fly. The body, I'm using this Danville 4-strand nylon. As I say, it's got 4 strands in it. Bit of a pain to work with. Nice if you only want 1 strand, but I'm going to use all 4. The I guess you call it the thorax is going to be cactus chenille medium in the hot orange. This is not fluorescent, but it's good and bright. And the wing is white calf tail. So let's get started. Okay, I'll tie on our tag. It's a fairly big tag, bigger than usual. Now we get our thread out of the way. Keep this nice and tight. I always like the Mylar to bite into the thread underneath. It creates really reflective facets in the Mylar. I know if you wanted to do a pretty fly, you wouldn't do that, but, it's the way I like to do it. Okay, now we tie in our tail, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to use some of the fluffy material on the end. The original fly used a piece of hackle, as you can see. I just had the quill in there and everything. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to grab a bunch of the fluffy stuff from the hackle, and I'm just going to add a bit more. The idea is to make that tail prominent and having it move. And I think just doing what I'm doing here is probably a better solution than the hackle tip, which is a little less mobile. Now we're going to tie on the rib. And now for the body. We're going to make 3 passes with this floss. I guess you can call it floss. I'm not sure whether it's a tying, consider a tying silk or a floss. So I'm starting off with a bump, and my tail is moved. Oh, that happens. We'll get it back into position. Just a coat on the bump to cover it up. And then we're going to lay it on thick in the middle section. You can see it starting to separate. This is one of the things about this particular thread. It's the only fluorescent stuff I've got, so I'm trying to make the best of the job here. Bring it back, and then we just want to fill up that space. Bring it back to the bump. There we go. That's pretty smooth. I mean, this is not a work of art. This is a very pedestrian type of fly. I should add, I forgot to mention, this works really well for Chinook salmon and coho and that sort of thing. Great Lake style, I should say. They like it as well because they like to eat egg flies. And I think it probably would work for lake run browns because they often come up the river looking for eggs when the steelhead are spawning. So why not give them this fly at the same time? So I put a wrap at the back. I come forward. Now for our chenille, we don't put on very much, this ice chenille. It's just a little bit. I've just created a little tying in point there, which I'll trim off. And it's just so I've got some core material to work with. There we go. And just keep pushing the material back and out of the way. Because what we're going to do is we're going to put some hackle on here as well, so there has to be some room. And we're not going to go gung-ho with this. It's just to help fluff up the hackle. So we'll put some at the back, and that's about all we need. If you're finding that you can't get it to push back, use a half hitch tool and just push it back that way. Works like a charm. Now we're going to tie in our orange hackle. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to really strip this back, and I don't want to, it's not a big hackle, it's just a little bit. So I'm going to really strip this off. Okay, that's all I'm going to be putting on. I'm not putting on much. Stroke it back. We're going to be pushing this well back, so if you got some strands sticking forward, don't worry about it. We'll fix it as we go. And this is where we use our half hitch tool to push these things back. Now you notice this hackle is a lot longer than what I showed in my other original fly, which for me is fine. I want that long webby hackle, and it's fluorescent. So the last thing is the wing stacked, and it's not a very robust wing, it's a small wing. We just want a hint of a wing here. Keep brushing everything back. Big head is good. So what we're going to, and this is fluorescent. Remember, this thread is fluorescent, so we want to make good use of it. There we go. Let's whip finish. Okay, you can see how fluorescent this material is. It just glows. So if you use this on an overcast day, it's really going to pop. So there's the NoName fly. Give it a name. Help me out. I mean, there's the original. I haven't tied it exactly the same, but it's the same general idea, same general plan of lots of orange, a white wing, and lots of sparkle. And in this case, none of this stuff was fluorescent. All of this is fluorescent. This is really going to pop on a dull day. So give it a try, the NoName wet fly, egg fly, something or other fly. So anyway, you can't lose, right? It's caught fish, even though it's ugly. Cheers.